Hello and welcome to Pillars of Eternity. Let's put an end to Theos once
Let's
and
see
for
what
all.
lies this way.
Honestly, don't need to sneak around here, do I? What, you wanna say something, mate?
Doesn't that just beat all? Here I was, wondering all this time whether all these terrible things were people's fault or the gods. Turns out they might be the same thing.
That does make sense.
Wonder how things would have gone different 15 years ago if the Raid Sarens had been told their god was made in some forge or kiln someplace. Would we still have gone to war?
People were starving, they'd have rebelled sooner or later. You know, only spineless people get beaten and don't react.
I could see the rebellion still happening, but I don't know that they would have invaded.
He looked down on the ground, drumming his fingers against the side restlessly. When he spoke again, it seemed half to himself.
I don't know. When Woden left for war, we, had a fight. As brothers will.
Go on.
About him going off to war. He was set on it. My parents warned him. They said you get a new country with every trip across the border, but your god, you only get the one.
Yeah, it really depends on which psychotic lunatic you decide to worship.
Me? I didn't know who was right. All I knew was I didn't want him to go. It's the same for families as it is for gods. You only get the one. I said every vicious thing I could think of, trying to change his mind. He brushed it off. Just got me madder, of course, him being so calm. He said I should come with him, but he'd understand if I didn't want to. I told him he'd better be able to face his god one day and answer for what he'd done. He said he'd keep that in mind. And then, he was gone. By the time I'd cooled off, months had passed. One morning it dawns on me that my brother always knew better than me. If he was so sure of what he was doing, then I should be there with him. I packed my things and was on the road that same morning. Of course, what I didn't know then was he'd already changed his mind. By that time, he was dead on that field.
So if you would left with him, you would have known what changed his mind. Don't forget, he would probably be in the same grave right now.
If I'd have left with him, we'd both be dead, so I don't know why I bother thinking about it. I found my own way in the end, and it wasn't my brother's and it wasn't my god's. I don't know if it was right. But I couldn't abide what Wydwin was doing to his own, god or not. I don't regret it. Whether Wydwin was Aothis, well, it hardly seems to matter after what we just heard. And all these questions I've been trying to figure out. I think I just miss my brother.
Do you believe he went to Wilden because of what you said?
Crossed my mind. You live in a place like Gilded Vale. You don't have a whole lot else to do other than think about things you don't want to think about. I hope that wasn't it. I hope he went there because it's what he thought was right. But it seems I'm not meant to know.
Well, not with that attitude. Let's get moving.
Still one more mess we gotta straighten out. Come on then. I still owe you one.
Do you though? Huh. Okay, let's not get down here first. Let's go the other way. And see what we have there to fight for. Ooh. Itamak, hit him. Let's take a look at those two weapons. How good are they? twice as strong. Yes, I know I'm incredibly powerful, but I do believe that I like the monk twice more.
I shall be
Okay.
quiet as a calm sea, which is not very quiet.
Just leave the traps to me, okay? You know, me and the monk make a pretty decent team here.
Zawa is ready.
Might 21. That's a lot of constitution. Dexterity is low. Okay, go get him. You attack this one. You will help him.
Ready, one.
2 down, 2 to go. Oh, you think you survived that? How adorable. One dead. This one next. Both of you. Focus. The other one. You attack him. You take the other guy and that should be it, right? I love power. It makes me so much more convincing. Daybreak. Daybreak was a product of the careful engineering of an animancer from the Solace Vale, hoping to create a defense against the blights and phantoms that often plagued neighboring villages. He developed a morning star that was especially effective against such nightmarish beings. Unfortunately, he died before he could make use of it. Even though he had no involvement in the early experiments with Hellborn, he was murdered by one of the many lynch mobs that formed after the apprentices of their first wicks. Ugh. Sure. Nice. Incredibly expensive. We don't need it though. Neither the Morning Star. Okay, Theos, if you're
You
down
must
there,
gather your party before venturing forth.
I should take you down.
Do not be deceived by the darkness.
Keeping an eye out.
It is an illusion. There is a path here.
I wasn't deceived by the darkness. Why did you even think that, mate? Anyway, do we have dragon meat ready? We have 6, 9, plus 4, that's 6 more, and 1 more, okay. I have no idea. 12 plus 1. How many is that?
Look at the size of this place.
Look at that. A city to put all others to shame. And long lost.
Whoa. Step lightly.
And another with his most brilliant command. Can you do that again? I had something in my eye. Ah. Oh, boots of speed. That's new.
Brave thou shalt not.
Just quickly dispatch them. Telpus, okay. Move slow, and by that I mean move. Should I give the boots of speed to my monk? I mean... Oh. Just... You have two axes. Make sure you use them properly.
Yes?
Oh, really? I think it's because the Tsar is amazing against dragons. Okay, just eat this guy. Next. Oh, Shadow Flames. First I'll take him down. Okay, what about you? Clank's bits and bone break away between my fingers. Minor braces of deflection. Well, nice to see you here. The shadows in the cavern suddenly lightened and swallowed me. When my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I found myself in the midst of what must be another vision. I am surrounded by mists. The ground felt sparely under my feet. I imagined that as soon as I took another step, the soil behind me will erase all traces of my passage. As if on cue, the mists before me cleared, just enough for me to take a couple of steps forward. I did, and the fog closed behind me. I continued for several minutes in the matter, one step at a time, never seeing more than the ground right in front of me. Eventually rays of light cut through the haze, and I found myself facing a canyon wall. Eder's head twisted suddenly, as though something had flown in front of his face. What the? Something whistled past me as well. Just as I turned, I caught another glimpse of it. Out of the mist flies a shape, small and rounded. I think I see something. And then another, and then another. They tackle the corner of my vision. I turned back to the canyon wall. The sun shifted along the path, and what looked like a smooth rock face of the hollow of a cave, a figure stepped out, its features shifting and changing before my very eyes. He who sees and is not seen, save when he chooses to be. I thought the god of mystery my chief enemy at times, but one cannot seek out answers if the questions aren't there. The figure transformed from male to female, from Orlan to Almua, its bones lightening and its fur receding into flesh, and only detail that remained constant was the smooth eyeless face, the whistling rushing shape from the mist covering the finger as they form a spinning cloud. I realized that they are all eyes.
You understand the value of a mystery watcher, a buried scroll, a hidden truth. These are my ways.
I understand the value of a mystery, but I untangle mysteries. I actually don't care about making them.
You unravel a thread, Watcher. one you have lost and discovered over generations. And following it to its end has only brought you back to the beginning.
Speak plainly. Well giggled, a strangely molded sound that raised and fell as the god shifted from one form to the next, and drained the meaning from the end. You have almost achieved. Your search for answers to your past has led you to another mystery, and one greater still. These mysteries don't matter to me. I just want to keep my own soul from unraveling. Yet, as you've sought this goal, your foes have pursued another.
A nebula of souls, blind and brimming with potential. The answer to Woodika's question and the beginning of yours. What would you do with them?
I take it you have something in mind. Raymond, Ondra, and Skin won't like me to dissolve them. No, let's see what you have in mind. The clouds broke, and the torrent of rain washed Well's features clean. His black face molded itself again, taking on the shape of something I had never seen before. Do not consign the souls of the fate of some god's choosing. You have found them. Now scatter them across existence. Their destinies known neither god nor mortal. Let them be lost again. New answers to new riddles. Behind him, a sudden downpour has carved new caves into the canyon. What end would that serve?
No end, Watcher. That is the purpose.
Honestly, of all the gods, I think I like you the most. But what would happen to the souls?
None know. They could end up anywhere in the realms of gods or mortals, whole or divided. Discovering them again and charting their course through the ether will be a new mystery.
Farewell, Whale. You should have actually made this offer at the temple.
That is a word for endings, and this is but a crossroads. Even I do not know what you would choose.
Shadows from the new cave melted and spread across the landscape, covering me in darkness. When the light returned, the vision was gone. Oh, this is gonna be interesting.
Laying low.
No traps, nothing. There's gonna be another battle here, I bet. A long segment of the bridge raced over the ruins of an ancient city. It looked stable enough, but the wide gap leaves little room for error. And so I jumped, fearless and kinda foolish, and yet I managed to pass. The landing was not actually soft. I collapsed on the other side, entangled my limbs. I had a twisted ankle,
Step lightly.
and it was not worth it. As I jumped back, I misjudged my I misjudged my foe, and
Hello?
a painful gasp as I reached out, grabbed the wall. I did manage to survive, but my hand was in constant pain. As I cleared the room, shadows dropped from every possible angle. I knew what I needed to do. This one's yours, mate. No, you're not going. 60 is enough, I think. No dragon this time. Oh, here he is, a shadow drake. Use that on him. And you kill him. Yeah, make sure he suffers, please. And this one's mine. I actually do more damage than him, but he is so fast with that it's actually amazing.
Tale ends here.
Was that all of them? One can
Step
remain very
lightly.
disappointed in that battle. Why am I even gathering those essences? So we never use them for anything.
Let's see what lies this way.
No way I can go down from here. Seems like there was an idea here, but never utilized. Okay, and what do we have here? An exceptional Brigadine. And I did love my Brigadine. I did find something better. Is that light armor, by the way? Yes.
I shall be quiet as a calm sea, which is not very quiet. Hello? Hello?
Oh dear, oh dear.
Pray
That's a lot of them.
for
Let's make them pay. 58. Almost there. Ah, thank you. That's all I needed. Maybe it took more time than I anticipated, but that's all I needed. And they're all dead.
Zawa is ready. Zawa is ready.
Push him to the ground. Finish this one off. Wonderful.
Laying low.
Oh dear, oh dear. What, is
Step
that it?
lightly.
That's why we came here? Annoying. I do need to rest before the final confrontation though. Let's move out.
Quietly now.
Scroll of Defense. What does that actually do? Oh, defenses for 15. 5 meters area of effect. Kinda. Yeah, definitely not gonna use that. Why don't you take this? Might prove incredibly useful. 8 meters, wow.
Are you ready to take the oath? To spread the word of the gods to the lost and heathen? I am trusting you to remain loyal to the gods in this. If you do not, you will have greater powers than me to answer to. I wouldn't ask this were there any other choice.
This is a missionary, same as I was, taught the wrong Osionis.
You are ready to give a confession?
I am ready to hear one from you.
Okay, let's rest here. Are there any more scrolls of defense? One may not be enough. Just saying. Yes, we have 9 more. This is for you, mate. The rest we'll give to the Tsar. Oh, also the war paint. We might use that. Okay, we should be healed, and let's eat some dragon meat. Let's move out. I've come to a secular room, grand and domed, its walls lined with Adra and primed with copper. At the far end of a great pillar of Adra pierced the floor from below like a ragged spike, its shimmering texture giving the illusion of borderless depth. My thoughts are mine, and not mine, and they are all questions. At the base of the pillar stood Tails, a look of concern on his face as he noted my approach. I had something I wanted to ask him, one question above all others spinning mildly in my mind, but I could not dare to ask it yet. I needed some admission from him first, some hint of veracity of my suspicion.
You are far from your post, Inquisitor. What brings you here?
Was the entire Inquisition based on a lie? The Inquisition was based on the need to cut the flesh from a rotting wound. Oh, the statues. Who are they?
They are monuments to Woodica's greatest servants among my people. I hope to join them myself one day, but my work is not yet complete.
That machine behind you, what does it do?
It has many uses, but its purpose is to bring structure to the chaos that surrounds it.
Was Yovara telling the truth?
That woman sought only to destroy the foundations of peace and civility that my people sacrificed everything to build.
What is this place? Oh yeah, I asked everything important and now, yeah, I actually never asked you, where am I?
You're in the sanctum of holy Wodica, or others like it in service to the other gods. I come here often to pray for her counsel. In this place, I may be assured that she hears me.
What? Well, asking a stupid question, giving an illegible answer, it's a perfect sense, trust me. We are in the sanctum holy to Wedica. There are others like it, service to the other gods. I came here open to pray to her counsel. In this space, I may be assured that she hears me. I was shaking my head now, having lost all patience for tact. No more evasion. I had to know. Everything I believed in, everything I had done for the gods. Did you lie to me when you said the gods will absolve my sins? Theos said nothing. Are there no gods? What is a god, A higher power, a rewarder of good deeds and punisher of the wicked, something men can turn to their darkest hours. When their days seem only like a bridge from one tragedy to the next, our gods are all these things. With Theos' every word, I found myself losing control, a boiling cauldron of rage and doubt, and fear and hopelessness, until I could no longer make it. Are there no gods?
We are in a sacred place within earshot of the gods themselves. This is not the time. You've been through much these past few months. You will return home and you will rest. When you feel you have recovered, you may rejoin us at the trials. The Inquisition is far from over, and I will have need of you. There are many who continue to spread the lies of the apostate. The Inquisition will not end until we have pronounced judgment on all of them.
His eyes lingered on me, and there was no mistaking the thread behind it. At my range shrunk, and the image of an iron will in my mind, monolithic and cracked with the dried blood of thousands. I did not ask the question again. Wow, what a spineless fool. He honestly does not deserve to live.
How did you find it?
It was Lady Webb who found you.
Another in a string of acts of petty defiance. For all her knowledge, she always preferred spite over reason.
It was reason that guided her hand in this.
Then she should have obeyed. I ask one thing of all my followers. She was incapable. A waste of rare talent and intellect.
Her talent and intellect were too great for her to live as your servant.
What of your cohorts, then? They have followed you to their deaths. Is it loyalty that brings them here? Or is it, as my agents suggest, that they have no direction of their own?
I can tell you right now why the Tsar follows me, if you will.
You worshipped Aethys, did you not?
Your spies are good. What gave me away? The cape?
And of course, Ether with a sharp tongue.
Yet when your god needed you the most, you chose your country.
It seems he made the right choice in the end.
We were being invaded. Not by anyone who was acting like a god.
Then I should think your hometown gave you a hero's welcome when you returned.
They made cake. Hard to blame people for losing faith when it's the gods who are misbehaving.
The gods argue over how best to prevent Kith society from destroying itself. These disruptions would not be necessary were mortal instinct not so diseased. You have devoted yourself to studying the work of my people. Why?
Because I believe we can learn from the past and use that knowledge to better ourselves. I wanted Rauatai to surpass the Angwithins, build upon what they knew.
And did you ever consider that these were things you were never meant to understand? That their comprehension is beyond you?
Okay. If he just says no, I think he's gonna become my favorite character. Oh yeah, you definitely need the complicated answer, which is even not voiced. I don't need to understand. I have seen what's become of my people. That's all the lesson I need.
You are living in the time of my people, Amawa. You owe them more than you will ever comprehend, and so it shall ever be. Greater civilizations than yours have attempted to reclaim what we buried. The greater their successes, the worse their fates in the end. I have seen to it. You are far from home, dwarf.
Oh, Sagani, yeah, you stand no chance of convincing her, mate.
I knew my hunt would send me a long way from Masuk. It was a challenge I was glad to undertake for my village.
A journey, then? It must be of some import to take you so far and to last so long.
What's important is that I'll return soon. And when I do, I'll spend my time where it matters.
So it was worth it, then, to tell a dying beast of things it neither understood nor had memory of.
And then Theo's eyes settled on Zawa.
I am told you are the last of a great line.
As are you.
But my line will continue unbroken. My people entrusted me with their wisdom, and I ensure that their legacy flourishes. Can you say the same?
My line is not ended while I still breathe. There is still hope for my master's legacy.
Your master's knowledge was already lost to the world. Any hope you had of rediscovering it ended with your arrival here. You are here because you are lost. The gods cannot reach everyone, I'm afraid. May you fare better in your next lives.
And then he directed his gaze at me.
I gather you have had your soul awakened. Why else would you shadow my footsteps like some stray mongrel? You think I have something to offer you, but our business was concluded long ago.
One of us is going to die in this room. You might as well admit your lie. Before that.
I answered your questions once. That your soul is not fit to accept the answers is of little concern to me. I lied to no one. Not to you, not to anyone. The gods are real. They are everything we need them to be, and the world is better for it.
You lied to everyone, yourself most of all.
I have no illusions about the costs involved. But what your brief lifespan obscures is that it is what must be done. The heart of this country has skipped a beat. Nothing more. I have done far worse. I plunged the peaceful kingdom of Telosus into civil war. I slew the monarch of Desantio, whose people never knew hardship under his rule, and replaced him with a cruel despot who brought them to ruin. When plague arrived at the great city of Arborensis, I saw to it that the cure did not. They piled their dead outside the city in heaps that rose above their walls.
This is supposed to diminish the damage you've done here.
It is to show the proper perspective. There was a time, back when your soul was still a shapeless mist, when the world believed only in false gods. Thousands of them. Gods that told them to take slaves. Gods that told them to make war upon their neighbors and devour the slain. Gods that told them to burn their children alive and cover themselves in the ashes as a sign of their faith.
The world hasn't changed. The gods still demand sacrifice, Vedica most of all, yet you follow the wicked goddess. Why?
But all that changed when they learned of the true gods. Our gods. All those misshapen, bestial instincts melted beneath the radiance of our god's majesty. You could see it in their eyes. That dull emptiness replaced with the glimmer of a kindled spark.
Teaching them that there were no gods would have achieved the same purpose.
And replaced it with one far worse. Have you imagined this existence? The one the apostate would have created. We are not all so virtuous as she. Without our gods, the most wicked, the most tyrannical, they would take that power for themselves.
And they would fall. For those who have the collective ideas usually outmaneuver those who have the most tyrannical ones.
But more than that, it would be a hollow existence. All mysteries forever unanswered. All purposes constructed from meaninglessness. No endings to bring closure. Only a wheel, turning without mercy, grinding our spirits to dust.
If that is how it's supposed to be, then so be it.
If you would welcome a wretched and lifeless existence, then by all means. But I will not see the rest of the world saddled with such a curse.
Ah, but there is one small problem. Only those with true power dictate how the world will turn. And you, I'm afraid, have long since lost that opportunity.
All I have seen, the millennia of experience. I will not be dissuaded from this course. This is the only way.
You are blind to think this is the only way. You are controlled by your own doubts.
We are all controlled by our own doubts. Better that we should be relieved of them. With your soul and thousands of others, I will see this world purged of its suffering. Hear me, Boudica. Your servant calls for aid.
Okay, this will be... What the hell? This might be a difficult battle, but we have dragon meat. We have to see if that actually still exists or not. What's kind of weird? Anyway. No, pause the bloody game. Everyone, here, you, here. You have 2 spells to cast. First, this one. Okay. Why aren't you on slow? Damn it. And second, this one. Go, everyone. I want the first one dead now. This one's yours. Come on, Zawa. He's weak and pathetic. Make him suffer. Still have the dragon meat, right? Yep, it's still here. Good. Drink this. You have warpaint, right? Drink it. Cast this again. I need you to run. Okay, one down. One to go. Get out there. Zawa, summon these weapons. I want them to take care of Theos while we take care of his little child. Oh, how? How? She was so far away. Okay, take them out. You attack him. Cast this again, just in case. Still alive. Why are we so prone? 5 seconds. Come on, we have so many spells. Should be fun. More weapons. Get that gun out. Do we have anything that can revive the Tsar? Paralyzing the gun. Not just to finish him off.
Follow it.
Die already, damn it. There he goes. We're not done with you, mate. Not done yet. Go get him. Confused for 12 seconds.
I can make my own scars.
And where are you going?
Target.
Interesting. We are all gained on them. I don't know how long those things will stay here. Keep him alive, feather. There. He's yours. Go. He's almost gone. A few more hits should do the trick. Is that it? Honestly, that was a huge disappointment. At my feet rested the body of Theos, hollow and dense, wrinkled shaped by a silent shouldering of the internal burden, now smoothened across the color-drained face. His soul remained still for the moment. Defenseless, his energy expanded in defeat. Its light sprawled across his body like a dead shroud.
All those lifetimes spent to preserve a single vital secret. I can't imagine having that much certainty.
After journeying for lifetimes, I can't imagine his failure, knowing it was all for nothing.
Well, he should have known better.
Some point, you have to look at the things your God is telling you to do. And ask yourself if it's worth it.
This man held to the world harder than any I have known. His suffering was plain to see.
Explore Theos' soul. With a deep breath, I plunged into Theos' soul, and where, in Blackenberry, it had been a maze of narrow corridors and dead ends, now it is expansive and borderless. Its walls crumbled into heaps like the ruins of Engwithian as I passed through them. My travels, what seems like ages, rushed to a known destination, a memory I glimpsed once before. At this moment I saw it, no more than a pinprick of light at the end of a long tunnel, expanding slowly at first, then quickly as I neared. I came out of the room I was standing in, but it is new and pristine, and filled with people, thousands of them, all turned towards the great Adra pillar at the machine that essence it. Theo stood in the machine, and I am the only one with him now. I looked on the crowd. It faced a shivering old man and crumbling-cheeked little girl, at mothers bursting infants to quiet them, and fathers clasping their children's restless hands and watching with sober acceptance. A woman with tears in her eyes gave me a small nod. I turned back towards the machine. I breathed constant beneath the weight of an unwanted knowledge, preparing myself for set out alone on a journey without end. I closed my eyes, and I opened them again to find the machine still in front of me, beckoning. I took my place in front of it, and placed my hands upon a large mechanical disc at the base of the great crystal column, and spoke a single word. A giant ring crack of life, building speed, setting a race of car to the conic mouth, aglow and sending tremors throughout the platform beneath me. The entire room shook, and now, with the force of an accepting machine, all souls drowned out by the deep, deafening tremor, brilliant tendrils of light arc outward from the pillar in all directions, and I looked on, over the shoulder, to see, engulfing the crowd, burning them brightly like a hot iron. One by one the tendrils disappeared, leaving them ashen, a fungi, where people once stood, many of them disintegrated into grey leaves under a stress of the tremors. I looked about the Adra pillar, and the glow of stale mass had begun to collapse atop a column where the arc converged. It grew and pulsed, transmuting in bubbles like some immense crystallize suspended in slow rotation as though it were being spun from the arc of light. When at last the arc disappeared, the spectacle's mass hung a moment, no longer rotating so bright I must shield my eyes with an outstretched hand, and it seemed to you as though it is looking at me. I bowed my head in acknowledgement, and looked back to see it melt into a pillar like a warm candle wax. The pillar flared with flash of light bright as the sun itself, then it faded to the darkness. The machine slowed down to an abrupt halt, and when at last echoed its grim chords at the past, the chamber it is still, and I was alone. From all sides reality began to bleed intrude of the memory, and I found myself in my own skin once more, looking down on Theos' lifeless body. I sense a listlessness to Theos' soul, an overwhelming fatigue, and hinders its immediate escape, and makes it vulnerable to manipulate. I felt as though my victory has given me some kind of hold over it, and I was able to do with it as I pleased. I can return it to the cycle. That's not gonna happen. Tear his soul apart. Banish his soul to Baron Amaron. Destroy all memories? No. You caused me great suffering, Theos. You do not deserve to exist. And so, with a single snap of my fingers, I tore his soul apart. I hope this brings you satisfaction after all you've endured to reach this moment.
There is nothing left of the man to hate. You waste your energy.
Oh, I did not hate the man. I hate no one. You see, I do enjoy punishing those who have wronged me. There is some grim satisfaction in denying them their peace. I reached out for Theos' soul, and I could feel his frailty in defeat, his stature like a course of trampled cloth on the brick of disintegration. I insinuated myself between the thread, pushing the weave apart, unveiling the stitching until it is the thread of structure, a formless heap bound together by nothing at all. In its midst, I decided my focus to a single idea, and it is shatter. I concentrated as I concentrated my failed force building within my soul, an outward pressure that strains against containment, threatening to repulse my spirit. When I can contain it no more, I transfer it into Theos' soul, all at once, and released it there. A detonation of will that expanded in all directions, driving out the remnants of the essence, scattering it into nothingness. I could feel his presence. No more. In the stillness that followed, a single word echoed throughout my mind, a word I spoke when I was one with Theos. In an ancient memory, I realized it. It is the word that activates the machine. You guys seem to want to say something.
I'm here.
Let's hear it.
Zawa is ready. You inherited the snares of another lifetime. It must feel good to be free of them.
Only time will tell.
You no longer have Theos to be concerned with, at least. The Deerwood has suffered greatly. It will be stronger for it in the end. But now is the time to end it, to allow the wounds to heal. The Deerwood is young still. Its legacy is still to be written.
Cool.
I'm here.
Hey,
Seems like you're burned.
I'm here.
Yes?
Theos, he had hold of your soul from a long time back, seems like. You get what you needed from him?
I am beyond those needs now.
Feels good, doesn't it? Got enough to worry about as it is. You'll be feeling better soon then. Good. That's real good. You got it figured out what you're going to do about all that?
Yes.
Got a lot of people out there thinking they've been abandoned by their gods. There's not much that'll put the fear in you more than that. You can take my word for it. If it was in my power, and I know it's not, but if it was, I'd find a way to give them the courage to face it. Not because they think there's some god looking out for them, but because they've just got it in them. And after what you've been through, though, I'm sure you got your own ideas. Better make it good.
Oh, Weather. We've been traveling for so long. I got to know you so well. Yet, you know nothing about me still.
Never thought I'd see something like this in my travels. Lends a little perspective, doesn't it? All of these notions of who we are, what shapes us. None of it really matters, does it? And yet, if we could heal these broken families, I suppose our journey would be worth something.
Itama clicks at her fingers. I would like to thank you for traveling with me.
I'd probably still be twiddling my thumbs by the side of the road if you hadn't come along. Thanks for bringing us this far.
Welcome. And finally, Kiana.
We've come to the end of it, my friend. It has been an honor to walk this road with you, and I will regret our parting.
Oh, you're gonna leave. Well, I'm not gonna say that I care. You have saved yourself against all odds. I was never so sprout-headed. I fear something has faded in me, or else I simply have need to rest. After this long year, but I will remember your example. It's funny because yes, it has been an entire year, actually 11 months to be precise. Victory agrees with you, Yliel. You look as if a great weight has been lifted from your shoulders. I am glad. Theos, Theos, Theos. No imagination. As I approached the machine, the path underfoot suddenly changed to a cobbled road. If I hadn't experienced a vision like this already in Thiar Evrion, I would be tempted to believe that the machine has sucked me in, and deposited me in the middle of nowhere. The sun blazed overhead, and the rolling mallows of a thick forest on either side of the road could be anywhere in Dyewood. A shrill crackle turned my head. Standing next to me is a malnourished man clad in Thracian bear, lion-clawed, and malcalars. His entire body was stripped with lash mark, and there are scattered pits where his nose and ears should be. Skin. He stinks of stale sweat and washed filth. I noticed someone wandering down the road, but the figure's back is to me. The scattered slave has my attention for now.
I have observed you, Watcher. The way you handled that noble girl in Deerford, delivering an idol effigy to her uncle. A most careful scheme.
Oh, you think it's something that I care about? You're just adorable.
You have labored at the pleasure of others. That shriveled hag in Hodred House. Those well-bred thieves with their lordly pretensions. The wretched tribesmen playing out their fantasies of grandeur. And then you cowered and knelt before the gods themselves, begging one paltry favor and receiving riddles and visions in response.
I would be very careful what I say next, for the last god that stood in my way tended to have his plans spoiled.
And now the gods give you orders and commands, even while you set out to fix what they cannot. Yet what have they offered you?
Nothing. I offered them nothing, and they should expect nothing from me. Given the breadth of the Iron Manalek, it's amazing that he can still raise his bone-thin arm, but he does, and he pointed to the person walking the other way along the road.
The exiled queen is not an ungrateful patron.
I took a better look at the lone figure and realized she is wearing robes, tattered and singed, but fine nonetheless. On her head is a silhouette of a broken crown. She continued walking her pace, slow but determined.
Finish the work Theos began. Strengthen Woodica with these souls and allow her to become the most powerful of all the gods, with you as her favored.
Helping Woodica would mean that the secrets of the gods stay hidden. He rubbed his hands together, his black eyes glimmering. Safely hidden, yes, from the violent overlooks who would seize and fear punishment in their next life, from the heavy-handed masters who would answer no one. The world needs some schemes, or are the souls of Kit no purpose that you would snap and tenuous threads that bind society? What do you mean her favored? The recipient of Wedica's blessing, she has always had a place for mortals of particular merit. If you help her now, she will become the most powerful of all the gods, and you will be the one who made her so. Think of the lifetime of rewards you would receive. No mate, I don't need that. I've been working against Wedica the whole time. Why would she thank me for after I've defeated her most loyal servant? Loyal and weak, Theos proved ninquacy when he failed to anticipate you. A plan exposed is worse than none at all, but you have proven resourceful, equal to the schemes of the gods. Wedica has long memories, Watcher, for both friends and foes, and she keeps her oath. I've explained the alternative, Watcher. Continue as a pawn of the gods or partner of one. Pathetic all of the gods. One day I will smash them one by one. At the other end of the road the figure stopped. She turned her head just enough to look over her shoulder. Her face is mostly hidden, but one merciless eye peered at me from the cheek of her rebel scorched flesh. I will consider what you've said.
Yes, consider well the prosperous lives and the power that awaits you. I'm certain you'll choose well.
He continued down the road, and when the sun suddenly dropped below the horizon, it plunged into a momentary darkness. I came to my senses in front of the machine once more. Let's continue, shall we? With my companions bearing witness to the step up the place where Theos once stood, before his people long ago the great machine lies in front of you, idly, ready. I have seen the machine, and others like it operate. I understood how it works. It is a device for directing souls. As a watcher, it would be a simple matter to influence that direction through the big as the machine is. It may be the last thing I ever do. I spoke the command to activate the machine. There's a shrinking of stone grinding against the stone as old cogs loosen and begin to turn. I had only moments before the souls were sent into the Adra vein. This will be my only chance to redirect them. And so I disintegrated the cells, ending their existence. I closed my eyes and extended my perception outward, taking in the immense stellarity of the tens of thousands of cells orbiting the chamber. I grasped all the cells' attention. I found myself fighting to keep them all within my influence, and I could feel them slipping away from me as the machine gained speed. A brief moment came when it felt as though I could hold off once, and their force is so great it felt as though they would tear me apart. In that moment I decided my entire being to be in their orbit, channeling their flow in a new direction.
At your command, the ancient device became your instrument, spinning to life with deafening resonance and gathering up the swirling essence like thread on a great spindle. There, in the pale pulsing glow of the machine that set you on this path long ago, you summoned all your strength, focusing on your objective and blocking out all else. With a single concussive blast that rocked the chamber and sent you tumbling to the ground, you freed the souls from their stasis. Exhausted, your consciousness slipping away, your last sight was of the machine, dark and dormant. Then your eyes closed, and sleep welcomed you at long last. After coming to and searching for some time, you discovered the route Theos used to enter Sun and Shadow, and embarked on a long and arduous ascent back to the surface. You emerged in Ter Evron after days of tunneling through the rubble Theos had left behind, and when you stepped into the daylight, you were faced with a different Deerwood than the one you had left. At your direction, the thousands of souls gathered at the machine in Sun and Shadow were disintegrated, their essence scattered to the winds like a lifting fog, never again to find its way into the body of a living being. Though none in Deerwood would ever know for certain what had become of the missing souls, many followers of the Beast of Winter were given visions of a mass exodus to a land of eternal peace, and solemn celebrations were held the following day among his faithful. The last hollow birth in Deerwood was already in the past, and a new peace of mind had come, not just to the lost souls of the Hollowborn, but to all the people of Deerwood. Lord Radric's zeal had brought him back to life once, but it would not do so again.
Radric's destruction at your hands spelled the end of his suffocating rule over Gilded Vale and the surrounding area. In his absence, the village prospered, becoming a popular destination for new settlers anxious to leave Defiance Bay after the riots. Without a nearby ruler, it also grew more wild, with many settlers moving on as soon as they'd arrived, turned off by lawlessness that was excessive even by Deerwooden standards. Nevertheless, despite the challenges of living there, Gilded Vale had survived, and would continue to survive for the foreseeable future. Following the assassinations of Duke Avar Wolfgren and Lady Webb, Defiance Bay was thrown into political upheaval. In the ensuing weeks, the streets had become the domain of looters and blackguards. Few dared to step outside their own doors alone or unarmed. But order would soon come from an unexpected source. House Dominel, realizing that stability was good for business, brought the city's criminal elements in line through a systematic campaign of fear and intimidation. Capitalizing on the mutual antipathy of the Dozens and the Knights of the Crucible, House Dominel continued to manipulate both groups from the shadows, ensuring their decline and eventually supplanting their authority in Defiance Bay. Defiance Bay was served well by the Dominel's rise. Their subtle political maneuvers and lack of legal oversight allowed them to broker a number of favorable trade deals, rekindling the city's economy. Although their cautious approach in the Legacy's aftermath had perhaps denied them broad notoriety outside of Defiance Bay, House Dominel's wealth and influence both continued to grow unchecked. The destruction of the machine atop Ter Noaneth spelled the end of the reanimated corpses in Heritage Hill. Though at first few were willing to venture into the abandoned district, it was soon cleaned out and rebuilt. The district's horrors still fresh in people's minds, it would be some time before it was fully repopulated. But eventually the lure of cheap prime land would all but erase the memory. The Duke's assassination at the apparent hands of an Animancer had caused catastrophic rioting in the streets of Defiance Bay, and few Animancers survived the first day. Many Deerwoodens took the end of Widewind's legacy as a sign, both that the gods did not approve of Animancy, and that the purging of Animancers in Defiance Bay had been enough to satisfy them. In time, their rage would subside, and a number of surviving Animancers remained in and around Defiance Bay, often taking to the wilds to practice their science without repercussions. In the town of Deerford, an underground cult dedicated to Scan insinuated itself into the town's institutions. It became a popular travel destination for the wealthy, who were actively courted by the town's leadership. But few who visited the town would ever return, as they soon found their fortunes plummeting and their reputations destroyed by their own kin. Abidon's renewal brought new vigor and purpose to a god long known for quiet, steady labor. Handicraft saw a revival in the Deerwood, and no smith wanted for an apprentice. Additionally, Abidon's restored interest in preservation led to redoubled efforts to survey Engwithan ruins. Animancers and craftsmen alike found much to study, but tensions with Aer Glanfath rose. As for Stalwart, the Battle of Caeron's Scar only strengthened their resolve to unlock the mysteries of Durgan steel and build new marvels with the White Forge. However, Stalwart's ambitions brought them into further conflict with the Raid Serens, as more and more impoverished communities gathered at the border and vowed to finish the work of the Iron Flail. It would be many generations before the region saw peace. The battle against the Eyeless left Stalwart more hostile than ever toward the ogres in its midst, and the villagers grew bolder as they grew more prosperous. After a handful of bloody skirmishes, the Flames That Whisper clan left the Russet Wood to seek a quieter, more isolated home in the White March. While many such places existed in the mountains, the crossing was treacherous, and the ogres often found themselves embattled with other clans whose territory they passed. Less than half of the Flames That Whisper survived the journey, but those that did found a haven far from Kith lands. Harmka's death had brought the Devil of Carrick little satisfaction. In time, her taste for vengeance soured. What replaced it was a hunger to feel something, anything, new. Summer had thinned the snowpack twice over when she felt the joint at her elbow first begin to stiffen. She turned her back on the hopes of animancy and civilization and walked east. She pushed through the mountains, past Raid Ceres, and into the broad plains of Ishamiddle. She had forgotten what it was like to simply journey, no goal or destination in mind. Though she felt nothing more than the steady thump of her feet on the road, the endless horizons and grassy meadows were new to her. She measured her time in the gradual rusting of her body and was satisfied. Her movements slowed, but so did the world around her. Waist-high grasses undulated and tacked in the wind, as gradual as the tides. Sparrows and blackjays made steady pilgrimages across the sky, each flap of their wings a solemn salute. She could hardly move when she found something she had never seen before, the ocean. With the last of her strength, she pulled herself beneath the water, content at last to feel the movement of currents and the constant caress of the waves. Zawa came to peace with the end of the Dakan people and decided instead to start anew. He traveled to Defiance Bay, where he took up residence with the Scriveners of the Hand Occult for a time. He spent his time there writing down everything he could remember of the Dakan and their way of life. When he was finished, the voluminous set of tomes was given to the Hall of Revealed Mysteries, so that the Dakan legacy might live on. The fortress of Cadnua emerged as a bastion of security in the midst of an untamed land, becoming the envy of every thane and earl in Deerwood. Legend grew over time of its impregnability, and stories of formidable invaders easily scattered by the keep's defenses became popular around the hearths of Deerwoodinians. Likewise, it also became a beacon to travelers, merchants, and visiting dignitaries alike. Reputed as the finest fortress in all Deerwood, people would journey from near and distant lands alike to experience its fabled hospitality and grandeur. After the death of the Master below, a strange quiet fell over the endless paths of Ad-Nua. The attacks on the fortress above ceased, Ad-Nua's silent titan the closest remaining thing to a master in its musty, forgotten passages. Haravius took his leave of the party and, after his first bath in years, returned to his nomadic lifestyle. With his homesickness expunged, he found renewed joy and tranquility in his wandering survey of the wilderness. For the first time in his life, he ventured beyond sight of the mountains of Glonfath. During his travels, he penned numerous journals and sketches detailing his travels through frozen tundra, searing desert, and tropical forests. Wherever he went, Haravius left behind stories of the Autumn Druid, a temperamental, one-eyed wise man of the forest, known to bring food to lost travelers and unusual advice to anyone willing to ask him a question. Adair chose not to return home to Gilded Vale. Still most comfortable far from cities, he settled in Deerford, which, like many towns in the Deerwood, was beginning the slow process of rebuilding. Believing now that it was the obligation of Kith to be the leaders their gods had not, Adair was soon named mayor of the town, and under his guidance, Deerford soon began to prosper. He expelled the last of the Scanites from the area and drew new settlers with the offer of land, a trick he had learned from someone he otherwise preferred to forget. With each passing day, Deerford would come to more closely resemble the Gilded Vale of Adair's childhood, the one worthy of its name. When the dust settled in sun and shadow, Aloth looked upon the remains of Theos Ix Arcanon, his former master. He saw where the Grandmaster had gone wrong, and he knew what he would do better. The secret of the gods would be preserved, and with it, the sanity and well-being of all Kith. He donned the remains of Theos's ceremonial garb and prepared himself for the long and lonely task ahead. With the Watcher's goals accomplished and his own vows fulfilled, Kanarua sailed back to Dakoa. His friends and family found him much changed, for a pall had fallen upon the man, smothering his former enthusiasm. Called before the Lore College, Kana told them of the pain the Engwithan legacy brought to the lands abroad. He insisted that a search for answers abroad could only fragment the Rawatai people, as it had done to the Deerwood. His findings were met with much respect, and Kanarua's voice came to be considered an influential one in the growing move towards Rawatai's isolation. After 5 years of searching for Persak, Sagani's 4-month journey home felt longer still. The Deerwood, Air Glonfoth, the Valian republics became places on a map, endless expanses of green between her and Nasitok. Her homecoming was celebrated by all of Masuk, yet it was the reunion with Kalu and their children that truly brought her joy. She relinquished her role in the long hunts, and ever after, she and Itumak spent their days working in the village and their nights at her hearth. She watched her own children and their children grow and thrive. When she finally passed, she lay surrounded by the affection and tears of 5 generations. For you, the death of Theos brought an end to your waking visions and a silence to the whispers of the past. In their absence, you were able to sleep. The questions of a distant lifetime ceased to trouble your soul. All that remained was what to make of the answer. But at the moment, there was little to be done, and the matter would have to wait. A long journey loomed ahead.
So this was Pillars of Eternity. I would like to thank you all for joining me for this adventure, and I hope I see you again. Goodbye.